So another risk analysis for parts of the Northeast. So for parts of the Northeast and neighboring Eastern Ontario to Southern Quebec for August 29th to August 30th, 2025. So our thunderstorm analysis is not really dedicated to anything severe. So these thunderstorms are largely non-severe. They're isolated in fashion, short-lived. So there's nothing too spectacular about them. But nevertheless, this upper level low is bringing us a couple of days that will keep the risk alive if you live in these regions. Now, this upper level low, this mid to upper level low, is largely created by a ridge that's taking place over the North Atlantic. It's largely caused by the ongoing Hurricane Erin. So that is creating that ridge, and at the same time, correspondingly, we are getting this spin of low pressure over the Northeast. So stick with me to the end of this video. I will share with you the hazards that could be expected with some of these thunderstorms over the next couple of days. So everything I'm going to be presenting in this video is dedicated to August 29th, but it can be extrapolated to August 30th because of the identical environment. So here we have a mid to upper level area of low pressure. So this is upper levels of the troposphere, as I had mentioned this in the intro. So this will be our feature for generating isolated thunderstorms across much of the Northeast, Southern Ontario to Southern Quebec over the next 24 to 48 hours. It is lasting a little bit unusually long because of being blocked by this ridge that's taking place over the North Atlantic, caused partly by Hurricane Erin. So that area of high pressure, so that ridge in the jet stream over the North Atlantic, is causing this upper low to be anchored over these regions for an extended period of time, typically 24 to 48 hours in this particular situation. So it's not the most extensive blocking, but it is enough to make people complain about how cold it is, in large part, especially if you don't like the cold already. So it goes without saying that these areas will be colder than normal over the next 24 to 48 hours, but in the meantime, we will ironically also have a chance for isolated thunderstorms. And if I draw that counterclockwise circulation, as we know, low pressure systems, they do rotate counterclockwise in the northern hemisphere. So let's take a look at how that looks, just out of curiosity, and you can see that counterclockwise spin at upper levels, mid to upper levels, taking place over the next 48 hours and lingering right to the morning of August 31st. So looking at August 29th, we don't really see all that much instability, which is to be expected since humidity levels are very low under the influence of an upper level low pressure system. So we don't really get all that much moistening taking place, other than the moistening that would take place from localized rainfall. In this case, CAPE values of about 250 joules per kilogram at the most, in some cases even up to 500 joules per kilogram, just east and northeast of the island of Montreal. So really not all that much going on, but let's take a look as to what's driving this instability. It is enough for shallow-based instability, so low-top thunderstorms, and we're going to be seeing that over the next 24 to 48 hours. So taking a look first at our mid-level lapse rate, since we're under the influence of an upper-level low, we tend to see steeper mid-level cooling rates, since these areas of low pressure tend to invite much colder air at and above the surface, especially above the surface. So that makes sense as we're seeing these steeper rates taking place. And again, you can see that counterclockwise circulation as I pan out farther in time. So I omitted some analysis on the surface moisture convergence factor because there aren't really any surface boundaries to consider. So everything is strictly coming from our mid to upper level lows. So all the lift provided is coming from that zone. So if we look into the afternoon of August 29th first, we'll go into the afternoon of August 30th as well, but you're seeing these brighter colors that are taking place at the 500 millibar altitude. So we're considering the mid to high altitude since that's where the lift is coming from. And you're seeing these zones of higher lift, as I mentioned, these vorticity maxima taking place, especially east, northeast, and north of the island of Montreal, and going southeast as well. So we're not seeing all that much lift tomorrow afternoon in this broad zone. So the lift is quite sparse, so we do expect thunderstorms to also be quite sparse, but they're most favorable to initiate in these zones of maximized lift. And then if we go into August 30th, so you can see that spiraling fashion, that counterclockwise circulation around this mid to upper level lows. So again, you're getting a chance to see that circulation as I go forward in time, and you're seeing it some more. So now we're going to the afternoon of August 30th, and again, very sparse lift, and again, most of it is off to the east, northeast. Across much of the northeast, there's really not all that much lift over the next 24 to 48 hours, so I do expect thunderstorms to be quite sparse in distribution. Okay, so just taking a sounding profile from the west end of Montreal, so that's what this sounding represents. And this is taken for 5 p.m. on August 29th. You can also use this for August 30th. I think this is a suitable guide for 24 hours later, so we can use this to frame August 30th as well. So really what we're seeing is this very limited sort of profile. I mean, this is to be expected under the influence of an upper level low. So we know a lot of cold air is in place above the surface and at the surface as well. So temperatures are very restricted. We can see an environmental temperature if you follow this red curve down to the surface. So this is the surface at about 1,000 millibars. And at the surface, we barely have anything that much more above 60 Fahrenheit, which is about 15 Celsius. So it's quite cool. And this is to be expected once again. And our dew point is very limited as well because the temperature is quite limited itself. So the humidity factor is always also going to correspondingly be quite low. So only a 49 Fahrenheit dew point. So that's pretty low. So if we follow this green curve, which is our humidity and how that's changing with increasing altitude, you can see a pretty sizable decrease in that moisture content as we get to the mid altitudes of the troposphere. So we have ourselves a bit of a hydrolapse taking place here. And of course, as we would expect at the 500 millibars, so this is 500 millibars, follow it this way, and here's our red curve, you get a temperature of about minus 21 Celsius. So it's really, 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 really cold at mid-altitudes, and that, again, is to be expected under the influence of an upper-level low. So we have a lot of cold air in place aloft, and at the same time we have this unidirectional shearing profile. So it's weak. It's not particularly strong. We have weak winds at the mid-altitude, so we do expect thunderstorms to be fairly slow-moving, not sustained for an extended period of time. They will be briefly sustained, so they're not moving very quickly. Nevertheless, at maturity, these thunderstorms, these shallow thunderstorms, yeah, so I say shallow because our instability factor is so low that it doesn't extend to a great deal of the troposphere, right, upward. So because of that distribution of the instability zone in this section, thunderstorms are generally forced to be low topped, right? So they're not able to extend high up into the troposphere, right? So the vertical depth is more constrained in that respect. Now, it's still vertically deep enough to generate lightning, but the lightning frequency itself in this situation tends to be a lot more limited. You tend to have lower lightning frequency. And of course, the thunderstorms themselves don't last all that long, so the lightning itself is only generated and sustained for a short time. Okay, so I expect thunderstorms to be forming pretty much within the confines of that upper level low, so in this broad zone. But keep in mind, thunderstorms are very isolated in fashion, so in distribution, so they're not going to be all that many of them. And the thunderstorms that form pretty much to the west are going to be moving in this sort of direction, because remember the circulation of that area of low pressure, right? And then those off to the east, they'll be doing something more like this. So you can actually trace that counterclockwise circulation. So the thunderstorms will be doing something like that as well, like a magnet. So also, I think a signature component as well is that the thunderstorms will be very slow moving. So if you hope to see a thunderstorm, you need for them to be forming pretty close to your location in order for you to receive them in some meaningful way. So thunderstorms will be slow. They won't be too numerous. This is also applicable to August 30th. So as I mentioned before, this is you could just use this as a guide to frame August 30th situation. At the same time, some of these thunderstorms will be capable of small hail. So small hail is a possibility with some of these thunderstorms. Actually, one of somewhat of an enhanced probability because we have very cold air aloft right in this situation. So hail is a very probable outcome from some of these thunderstorms, and locally torrential rain is still a very strong possibility with some of these thunderstorms despite limited moisture availability. Lightning frequency, in this situation, I don't expect lightning frequency to be all that high, so I'm aiming for a low frequency altogether with pretty much all of these thunderstorms. Some of them will be able to adopt closer to a moderate style frequency, but they won't be sustained for long. So again, these thunderstorms are slow moving, isolated. Lightning frequency is generous, and thunderstorms themselves are not sustained for an extended period of time. So that's pretty much the environment for August 29th into August 30th. So we'll see what happens. Just be wary that these thunderstorms will be capable again of small hail and locally torrential rains. So if you're in the area, it's possible to be caught off guard by some of these since they do form fairly quickly, even though they are quite shallow. So these thunderstorms will be capable of these hazards, and they can still come unexpectedly. So it's important to be aware of the situation over the next couple of days, so long as this broad area of low pressure sticks with us as a result of the blocking pattern I mentioned earlier. So that's pretty much it. If you made it this far, thank you once again for your attention. So I'll see you in the next video, and in the meantime, I'll leave you with these playlists. So once again, thank you very much, and have yourselves a wonderful and safe day. Cheers.